When thinking about the most dangerous modes of transport, boating is hardly top of the list. While it's relatively safe, occasionally there are crazy accidents on the waves which are often caught on camera. If you're looking for ridiculous and calamitous boat crashes, then you're in the right place. Here are 20 of the most expensive ship accidents and crashes caught on camera. Number 20. Yushinmaru 3. The Yushinmaru 3 is one of Japan's whaling ships, so is quite understandably a controversial ship at the best of times. But the behavior of those in charge in 2014 took this to a whole new level. An anti-whaling ship, the Bob Barker, was hassling the Japanese boat in the frozen waters of Antarctica when both ships collided. The damage was minor, but it was seen as an aggressive move by the Yushinmaru 3. These confrontations happen regularly, with the Japanese boats often being accused of actively trying to damage protest ships that get in their way. Number 19. The Disney Dream. This cruise liner is one of the most recognizable ones on the high sea. It's a huge ship packed with all the latest features for its 4,000 passengers, but that didn't stop this accident from happening in 2017 as Captain Goofy was backing Disney Dream into a pier in the Bahamas.
I knew that was going to happen.
Apparently forgetting to slow down, the crash dented both the pier and the bow of the ship. It was all repaired within a few days, but this seemingly minor accident is thought to have caused tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage. Number 18. Cyprus Cement Incident. In 2013, Cyprus Cement, a bulk carrier, was leaving port in Norway, but one of the tugboats suffered problems with its propulsion. This removed all ability to steer, and the crew were helpless as the ship plowed straight through the nearby marina, taking a number of pleasure craft with it. The total damage of this incident was thought to be around 1 million Norwegian crowns, about 130,000 US dollars, which is perhaps a surprisingly low number considering all the damage that was caused. Number 17. MSC Armonia. In early 2018, the MSC Armonia was approaching port in Honduras, just like it has done numerous times before. But on this occasion they didn't exactly get their steering right. The shouts of locals on the land can be heard as the cruise ship sideswipes into the end of the pier, destroying all that lies in its path. Luckily, no one was hurt in this incident, but the cruise ship's insurance company was charged 13 million Honduran lempira, or $500,000 US dollars, for repairs to be made. Number 16. Allenburg Bridge Accident. In August of 2001, the bulk carrier Windock had lined up to pass through the Welland Canal Bridge 11 in Ontario, Canada. The amber lights flashed to signal that the bridge operator was aware of the boat, and the boat continued on course. When it was halfway through though, the bridge began to lower, and as you can see, the results were catastrophic. The top decks and chimney of the ship were destroyed, and a fire broke out soon after, leaving the crew no choice but to evacuate. Amazingly, no one died, but the ship was a write-off, with repairs estimated to be around $10 million. Number 15. Grand Rodozi. In 2010, the Liberian-owned Grand Rodozi was being guided into Port Lincoln, Australia by two tugboats. The engines of the grain carrier failed at the worst moment, and it crashed into the port side of the 700-ton fishing vessel, the FV Apollo. There was nowhere to go, and the $16.8 million Apollo was crushed against the port, eventually sinking beneath the waves. Following the incident, the controlling company of the Apollo filed a case claiming almost $30 million in compensation, along with claims for damages and interest. Number 14. Crash into a house. In 2018, a cargo ship sailing through the Bosporus Strait in Turkey had a malfunction that disabled its rudder. It crashed directly into an 18th century mansion on the shore and completely destroyed it. The Red Mansion was a historically significant place and is estimated to have been worth about $90 million. This, along with the cargo of barley aboard the ship and damage to the ship, put estimates of the damage caused by this incident well into the tens of millions of dollars. Number 13. Bridge crash. Bridges often pose a problem for ships, and there are lots of examples of captains not quite gauging their clearance correctly. In 2014, a brand new cruise liner costing $44 million managed to hit a bridge in China as it was being towed along to port. Perhaps the worst example, though, happened in Bangkok in 2017 when a barge hit the support strut of a bridge through the city. The bridge collapsed on top of the barge, causing millions of dollars worth of damage and taking out a vital transport link in the process. Number 12. Russian yacht. With so much open ocean available, it seems incredible that these two boats managed to collide. But they certainly did, and it caused a huge amount of damage. Fortunately, there were no injuries beyond a few scrapes and bruises, but there's been debate over who was at fault here. The boat from where the video was recorded appears to be stationary, which means that the approaching boat was definitely in the wrong and should have taken evasive action. Number 11. Boat collision with wall. In 2017, this Naveria Armas ferry was leaving the Puerta de la Luz on the island of Gran Canaria when there was an electrical failure, one that caused the boat to crash directly into the port wall. As you can see, the impact destroys the wall and the ship has no choice but to stay in place while authorities arrive to survey the damage. 13 passengers were injured in the incident, but the biggest consequences was still to be uncovered. The collapse of the wall damaged 2 vehicles that were refueling a nearby ship and caused 200,000 liters of fuel to be spilt into the water. The damage to the wall alone was projected to cost many millions of euros, and that's before lawsuits of injured passengers, the cost of repairing the ferry, and cleaning up the oil slick is taken into account. Number 10. The El Faro. The El Faro disaster is remembered as one of America's worst maritime incidents ever. The container ship was traveling from Florida to Puerto Rico in September of 2015 when, during an attempt to avoid a storm, it sailed directly into Hurricane Joaquin. The ship struggled in the treacherous conditions and sunk on October 1st, with 33 crew losing their lives. The wreckage that you see in this footage was found a month later at a depth of 15,000 feet. The lessons learned from this tragedy led to changes in maritime law to hopefully prevent anything of this scale from happening again. Number 9. Hong Kong container ship run aground. This next video comes from April of 2014 when the container ship Hansa Constitution suffered a power loss and was blown off course by the wind. The sound you hear is the anchor dragging on the seabed. Taking place in a busy shipping canal, it's perhaps fortunate that the ship crashed into the football field of the local university. The 193-meter-long ship ran aground and required 2 diving support vessels and 2 fireboats to help dislodge it and tow it away. With no hull breaches or significant damage to its surrounding infrastructure, the greatest cost of this incident was in fixing the power issue of the ship and the delayed delivery of its cargo. Number 8. The USS Fitzgerald. Militaries have the most advanced navigation systems in the world, but that doesn't stop them from having the occasional collision. This happened to the USS Fitzgerald in 2017 when it collided with a merchant ship near Japan. 7 sailors sadly lost their lives in the incident, and mainly due to flood damage, the repair bill ran into the tens of millions of dollars. In 2009, a German naval training mission experienced a similar, entirely avoidable collision. Those steering the Gepard-class speedboat were watching the front ship closely, but completely forgot about the one following it. They crashed straight into its side and had to cut their day short for repairs. Number 7. MV Rena. In October of 2011, the MV Rena, a 236-meter container vessel, ran aground on a reef in the Bay of Plenty in New Zealand. Fuel started to pour into the ocean that would go on to become the country's worst ever environmental disaster, and within a week almost 1,400 containers had also fallen into the sea. Beyond the irreparable damage to the local ecosystem, the cleanup operation and salvage cost more than $500 million, with efforts still underway to help the region recover. Number 6. Speedboat crash. Here's something we haven't seen so far, an insanely fast boat. At the 2014 Lake of the Ozarks Shootout Boat Race, this catamaran at the event, made by Outer Limits Powerboats, was speeding at close to 180 miles per hour when it started to fly. Literally. As its tip started to rise, it slipped, flying high into the air after crashing back down onto the water. While the boat, worth millions of dollars, was likely totaled after this wasn't the biggest loss here. Despite both drivers living through the crash, Michael Fiore, the driver and CEO of Outer Limits Powerboats, passed away due to surgery complications days later. Number 5. MV Tricolor. The MV Tricolor holds the maritime record for the most crashes resulting from one incident. In December of 2002, it crashed into another container ship in the English Channel and became wedged on its side in one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world. Despite extensive warnings that were put in place in the surrounding area, 2 more ships managed to crash into the MV Tricolor, with huge amounts of oil and wreckage being released into the water. In total, it's estimated that the cleanup operation alone cost around $40 million. Number 4. Exxon Valdez. The Exxon Valdez oil spill is one of the most infamous maritime disasters in history and one of the most environmentally destructive. It happened in 1989 when the oil tanker crashed into a reef while on the way to California from Alaska. 10.8 million gallons of oil were released into the water, which produced a slick that covered 1,300 miles of coastline and 11,000 square miles of ocean. So huge were the consequences of this accident that Exxon had paid out more than $3.5 billion in cleanup, relocation, and damages. Number 3. Shinyo Sawako Ship Crash. In 2008, the Shinyo Sawako crashed into a smaller fishing boat about 200 miles off the coast of Kyushu Island in Japan. The fishing vessel sank soon after the crash, and despite a major rescue effort, only 2 crew from a total of 13 were recovered, presumably one of them being the photographer of this image. It never became clear exactly how this accident managed to occur, but this image from before the impact shows how inevitable the outcome would be. Number 2. The Costa Concordia. The Costa Concordia was a 13-deck cruise ship with a capacity of 3,780 passengers. It offered cruises around Europe and was well known for its luxurious offerings. This all changed in 2012 though, when the ship's captain decided to take a different route than planned so the passengers would get a better view of the shoreline. Unfortunately, the ship hit a rock, began to tilt, and partially sank. 32 people were killed in the tragedy, and the ship was completely ruined. The final cost of its salvage and cleanup is thought to have been around $2 billion. Number 1. Beached Bulbous Bow. Large ships often have a bulbous bow that changes the way water flows around the ship in order to reduce drag and therefore increase the efficiency of the engines. This shape makes it prone to getting caught in incidents though, as was the case in 2009 when the MV Marty Princess and the MV Renate Schult became entangled. The bow of the Schult raised up on the top of the Princess and meant that both crews had to be evacuated. The damage was extensive and the repair bill went well into the millions. Now, despite ships being very safe compared to driving, the thought of being involved in an accident at sea still terrifies us, and understandably so. Have you ever witnessed a boat crash or been involved in one? Let me know in the comment section down below, and thanks for watching.